Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the player ratings for the game between the Pies and the Lions. Simply outplayed, probably for the first time since the GWS game. It's time for all things black and white. He suck. Always mindful how to approach the player ratings after a game like this. So I'm pretty sure which way I'll lean. But I just want to feel like Collingwood got Uno reversed last night. We were wedged into our back half for most of the game, especially that second half. And that stems from contest, which is what we got killed in. And then when the defense was put under pressure, more often than not, Brisbane would find a scoring shot when they'd go inside 50. Let's have a look. So they had, we'll bring up the share screen. Pull this here. So it was 10-5 to 14-8. So that's what, 22 scoring shots to 15. And inside 50s was pretty even. So if you score 22 times from 48, that's pretty good. It's decent. And then, what's that? 15 scoring shots from 45. That's what, 35%. Yeah, you can see here. I'll pull this over maybe a little bit more. You can see that. That's the difference in the way we went about it going inside our 50 and Brisbane. So these are just the numbers, simple numbers. It's imperative of the club to figure out why it was like this. I feel like we were just a little bit more fumblier than usual. If we were off 30-35% against GWS in opening round, I feel like we were probably off by about 20% today. Not today, last night. And you know what? I don't know if we can be judged completely on that performance from a team view. The coach's box will be scrutinized this week. Admittedly, that will be inevitable. But the actual team view, when you look at who could have played and who's injured, you do think, you'd like to think that Logan Morris and Patrick Voss aren't kicking 6 goals in us. Henry Smith is not kicking 3 or 4 goals or whatever he kicked in the end. So, and that's by bringing in Billy Frampton, Jeremy Howe, and then we can still talk about reintegrating Jordan De Goey, Bobby Hill, and Bo McCreary. So there are still some moving parts that need to fall into place before we panic. I'm not hitting panic stations. This was just this. As I said again. The boys were off, understood, but I felt like this game was lost in the coach's box, which is the frustrating thing because that was something that we could have done better to set up the game against Brisbane. Never mind. Let's start with Ned Long. Now, we all know he had 9 disposals. We all know he had 11% disposal efficiency, but 0 score involvements is the killer. That's probably the one where you go, okay, Tom Mitchell is licking his lips right now. He is up on a Sunday. He's getting his recovery and he's doing his sauna at home. He's juggling with 3 or 4 footies on the phone to his lads, talking about how he's going to be playing against Hawthorn on Thursday. That's where I think his mind's at the moment. He's going to come in with a great big smile to main training on Tuesday, I think it will be. I'll be there, Tommy. Don't worry, mate. He'll be up and about. And, look, Ned Long's been good. And he was great. For 4 or 5 weeks, we were all thinking, geez, have we plucked an uncut gem from the mid-season draft? He's almost star-worthy. And ever since then, has it been a steady decline? No, I feel like he peaked and then he returned to his relative baseline for the most part of the year. And now he's having some inconsistencies with his game. And as much as I've loved Ned Long this year, as much as I think there is still a future for Ned Long at the Collingwood Football Club in that midfield, I just don't know if we can take him into the final series. So, and I also believe that with Tom Mitchell being rested from the VFL and AFL, Fly had one hand in the future, thinking, well, if Ned Long isn't up to it right now, let's rest Tom Mitchell. He was great, 30 touches and the rest, but let's rest him. Let's see what Ned Long does after Tom Mitchell's dropped. It's your spot to lose, Ned Long. And Tom Mitchell, we want to prioritize Ned Long's two-way rating, his pressure, his tackling ability over what you bring to the side right now. But guess what? What we saw yesterday against Brisbane couldn't have been any more of a game that screams out Tom Mitchell would have thrived in it. And how were we to know that was going to happen? Yes, I understand Brisbane are one of the best midfield sides in the league. Well, what does that even mean? So we got pumped in the contest, particularly in the second half. That's where the dominance really got away from us as a team. Clearances 51 to 34 is massive. I'm just trying to look at this midfield and I'm going to ask myself, how good are Brisbane's midfield side? I mean, they're not the biggest. They're not the number one contest. They're not the number one team in the. They're not the number one team in the league for contest. What about clearances? Particularly, they're good, but they're not great. Their stoppages. Is that where you sort of say, okay, well, Tom Mitchell, more than any other scenario, he is the guy that helps you in the stoppages. But you look at this game against Gold Coast, who are even better than Brisbane in this case, and he has probably his worst game out of his 3 games he's played. Score some clearances. We got killed from forward half. Are they traditionally a forward half side? They're just as good as us. What about their stoppage work? Okay, so they're just above AFL average for stoppage scores. So, look, am I in the camp of thinking Tom Mitchell should have been playing in lieu of Ned Long going into this game? No. I thought Ned Long had to play. We had to find out. We simply had to find out about Ned Long. I just don't know if we have much more wriggle time to flirt with the team. So now we know, okay, it's either, what's going on, Fly? We going Ned or we going Tom? And I think we know the answer for now. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Who else should we talk? Let's go to a positive. Who was outstanding? This guy here. Where are you? Darcy Cameron. 7 intercept possessions. Is that a team high? That would be because Darcy Moore, not a great deal there. I thought we could talk about Brazzy as well in a moment, but Darcy Cameron was superb. 7 intercept possessions. Man, the solace he gives us in our back half, and one of the reasons why we're so good at keeping sides in our own forward half is because when they kick it out, they kick it to this man mountain, and he just puts it back in. He doesn't double grab either. He's just that's how clean he is with his hands when it comes to marking contests. Or his ruck work, okay, we know he's not the best tap ruckman, and you're not going to get the ascendancy there with Darcy Cameron, but 40 hitouts, that is a massive return, no? That's a massive return. 35 to 40. Okay, it's not huge. All right, there you go. Shows how much I know. Just the one clearance from stoppages and a centre bounce. So, what about Fort? Did he have? He had a couple clearances. Okay, so much of a muchness there. But we know that where Darcy Cameron's dominance comes from, it stems from his aerial ability. So, I just want to shout out Darcy Cameron. He's been outstanding, and if it isn't for Nick Dacos, he should be right up there for the Copeland Trophy, right? That's what I think about Darcy Cameron and his year so far. Yeah, I do want to talk about Braden Maynard because, man, it was the second quarter, guys. This was it the second quarter. The second quarter, that ball gets out the back. It's Braden Maynard versus Charlie Cameron, and most people, if they were to put a bet on that, who would win that race and get the result there, most would have had Charlie Cameron. But man, those back to back sprint efforts that Braz had, oh my goodness, that for me, as far as anything I've seen live at a game, that was the most inspiring, resilient, persistent act of footy I've seen in a long, long time. And I haven't watched it back yet with the commentary, but I'd like to think they would have gotten around Braden, because in the end, he puts a tackle on his opposition and they get caught for holding the ball, and that was well deserved. So that, in a game where there weren't many things to smile about, wow. That, along with Bobby Hill's specky, Jordan Goey's goal. I didn't give ratings to Ned Long, did I? Ned Long, I mean, the rating doesn't mean anything because we know how poor he was, but I'll put a number to it. I'll give him a 2 out of 10, which is one of our lowest ratings for the year. Braden Maynard, valiant, had to play taller than what he was and play smaller when he has to as well. 15 touches, I thought he was good. I'll give him a 7.5 out of 10. Is that fair, guys? Is that fair? I think that's what we go for. Now, this guy is interesting, Jack Chris. Are you guys of the opinion that Jack Chris has been down in form? Because personally, I don't think he's down on form, but that has been a conversation in some forums about Jack Crisp's last dozen odd games. But I feel like he's been relatively serviceable, and let's have a look. By the way, read into this however you wish, but he is the second highest rated player for Collingwood this season, behind Nick Dacos. Does that still stand? Let me double check. Going into this, where are we? Was he still the second highest rated player? Player rating. He's the third highest rated player behind Nick Dacos and Darcy Cameron. So doesn't that say something, or how do we feel about that? So if we go back maybe to his last 5 games, what are we seeing here? 15, 16. Okay, a little bit lighter on the touches. Disposal was poor today. Disposal's been a bit poor over the last 4 weeks, perhaps. Fair enough. No goals. How much midfield time though? Okay, he's had his turn in the midfield. Okay. Yeah. One of his lesser games yesterday, he was a part of that midfield group at some times. They got slapped, and does he get a rating? Oh, his rating for mine, 46% disposal efficiency. Look, the team was 3 out of 10s, 4 out of 10s, 5 out of 10s across the board, barring a handful of players. I think Jack Chris will probably fall into the same team of 5 out of 10s. So yeah, 5 out of 10, and we'll do one more for the road. I'm not going to do Charlie Dean. The coaches stitched him up. They gave him this false belief that he belongs, and unfortunately, he had to learn the very hard way last night. So I feel sorry for Charlie Dean, but that's the game, man. This is the business. It's relentless. Let's do... I'm looking at Dan Houston's name, and he's been a big conversation, so I suppose we'll dive into him just quickly. He actually had quite a few decent defensive efforts earlier in the game, but as the game wore on, he's not the fastest bloke going around, never has been, so he always has to compensate there. The tackle, the lack of tackling awareness, to be mindful not to be too reckless with the way you tackle. He did that a couple times. In the last quarter, what disappointed me the most about Dan Houston's game was when he had the ball in hand in our D50, I wanted to see the Dan Houston that we got from Port Adelaide to take the game on when we needed it. The first 10 minutes of that fourth quarter, we were piss fighting around with the ball. We were too conservative. And I think that the first time we really went may have been a Pendlebury moment. We can't be relying on 37-year-old Pendlebury to get the wheels rolling in the fourth quarter. That needs to start from players like Dan Houston. Would I say he needs to be dropped? No, because of two things. I think we need to persevere. Refer to the Lockie Schultz situation last year. Yes, it is different. Collingwood are going well this year. Collingwood were not going well last year. So that's one thing. The other thing is, who do you even bring in for Dan Houston? But to my first point, persevere and trust and kind of hope after that game that he can lift to another level towards the final series. But it's got to happen sooner rather than later, doesn't it? I could talk about so many players that I really could, for good and bad. I'm looking at Jamie Elliott, who's a little bit fumblier than usual. I'm looking at Perryman, who stood tall. I'm looking at McStay, who was quiet and he's being thrown around everywhere, forward, middle, back. I'm looking at Markov and I'm thinking, shouldn't Bobby Hill be starting over him? DeGoey was great to see DeGoey back. I thought he was great. Lipinski's kicking inside 50 wasn't like it has been in the past, like this season. I could go on and on, but look, it's Sunday. Fan takeaways tonight. It will be Thursday before we know it, and we have a chance to vindicate and realign where we're at in the season. Thank you for watching. Go Pies.